Hey everybody, welcome to the Real Hustle Podcast. I'm not going to introduce my guest yet. I'm going to tell a quick story. And I usually don't talk brands, and today I am. So switch over to EXP 2021. Don't know what I'm doing. Jump on a plane, fly to Dallas. I'm a nervous wreck. I'm going into my first meeting, and I'm there early. I'm always early, and I sit down on this bench, and there's this guy here sitting next to me, and I go, "Hey, where are you from?" "I'm from New Jersey." He goes, "I'm from New Jersey." I said, "Really?" I said, "Do you have a team?" He says, "Yeah, I have like 22, 23 agents." I'm like, "Really?" I said, "How many units you do last year?" He's like, "Oh, like 400. And I go, "How old are you?" And he goes, 29. And I go, "What the fuck am I doing wrong?" And that's where I met my man, Matt Rowack.
Nice to see you, brother.
Thanks for coming. So,
of course.
Like I tell that story all the time to people. Like, all right, so here I am. I'm going to be 56 in June. Guy next to me is 32 and has built a machine. And like I said, we usually don't talk brands on this, but I think this is important. One of the parts of this podcast is, is thinking big, right?
Yeah, so I think that's a good kind of segue, and that was definitely an important meeting when I sat down with you over there, because I was coming from, another company that I felt I was kind of just like, more like alone and kind of more maxing out with where I was at. I remember meeting you at that conference and, sitting down with all of these other like team leaders and top performers. And it's crazy because you were blown away by me and I was blown away by so many people over there that I felt like I was like the smallest fish in the room, right? So I think a huge thing I picked up just from that meeting and several more after that is just I wasn't thinking nearly big enough.
Agreed.
At all in any shape or form. So, meeting you over there, I know that sparked a fire too under you.
Correct.
That was a game changer for me and building like my foundation and my business and really taking it to a whole nother level, to the point that every one of the years of the last couple years has been like a completely different like atmosphere of like where we've reached. And every year I look back, I feel like my team and my group was like in the Stone Age.
I couldn't agree more. And like I always thought that we were cutting edge and doing things, and we just bring so many different things to the table each year to just make our team better and better. And last night we get together, there's 4 of us get together.
Yeah.
Like everybody shares ideas and we kind of feed off of each other. And it's probably one of the most gratifying things, I think, that we were always independent. There was 12, 14 of us in here. We never had time to go out, and people never really shared trade secrets and different things.
Correct.
And the nice part is, geographically, we don't trip over each other, and we're so it's a great bond that we've all created.
Yeah, I think another huge benefit of it is just being able to be surrounded by other like very high level thinkers and think of things as an organization, and think of a lot of like higher level things and building foundations and building systems and building all these things that are critical to building your brand, building your business, scaling. And it's great to be in rooms surrounded by those people, because you can learn just a couple, I'm sure even the dinner last night, we stumbled through like 20 different topics.
Exactly.
That even if you're picking up 1 or 2 things from there, it's like those can be game changers implemented into your business.
And I think the one thing that, and we hit on it last night, like people think, all right, I'm going to do this, and all of a sudden my bottom line's going to go right away. It's not like that. There's a gap. You start, So let's digress a little bit. I want to talk about, all right, so you go to Rutgers, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you graduate, do your 4 years there. Finish your bio major, correct?
Cell biology and neuroscience, yeah.
Okay, so he's way smarter than your typical realtor, okay? Let's just say that without a doubt. All right, so were you supposed to go to med school?
Yeah, so I got into med school. I took my MCATs. You know, I was going to go that kind of track, but then I was kind of going through that track more because I thought that like the most successful people are in that field, and I never really been around the field of like business and building a business. And when I looked at kind of the amount of money I'd be in debt and years of time to get to a position of making a decent income, I thought, you know, why not give real estate a try? Because I've seen a lot of people younger, very successful in real estate. So I was like, you know what, let me go give that a try. I tried it into my last year of college, ended up loving it, right? I'm starting with zero in debt at that point, and it's just a work in progress of building.
So how'd that go over in the family house?
Not good.
I could just imagine. Our son's going to go to med school. He's actually going to real estate school.
My dad's wanted me to be a doctor since I was like 4 years old or 3 years old. My mom, you know, you know, as a immigrant, has more of the, you know, professional degree type of mentality. So my first 7-8 months, which was obviously, you know, super difficult in real estate. I didn't have systems. I didn't have structure. I didn't have value that I was giving to people, and I looked like a child. So like all those, you know, combinations were not very adequate to build. But you know, it was tough. You know, as I'm going, and I'm like 7, 8, 9 months in, and I've literally only done like 2 rentals in a mobile house.
Wow.
And had like 12 grand. It was tough. My mom was always like, why don't you go back and be a physician's assistant? Why don't you go back to school, go back to med school? But I just, you know, I kind of saw the bigger picture. I knew the potential, what I could build, and I kept looking back every 3 months of kind of how much more I learn, know, I'm sharpening, and I see the momentum starting to build. So I knew I just needed to kind of put blinders and keep it moving.
So you worked for a big team.
Yeah.
You were up there. Did you learn a lot?
Well, on the team that I was at, where I was, there wasn't really training and coaching. So I was very much kind of on my own and just like thrown into the, you know, into the weeds of trying to just figure everything out on my own. I think being there, I learned a lot of like being in a team environment and seeing the things that I liked about a team, and seeing the things also that I thought were, you know, kind of not working as well in the environment that I was in. So that helped shape a lot of things later down the road, but it was definitely like a thrown into it, sink or swim type of thing, trying to figure it out.
So, and that's a pretty big group that you work with. So then you say, okay, it's not working out here. I think I can do this. I want to be an independent agent.
Well, I actually got fired.
Oh, you got fired?
Yeah, it wasn't like
okay, that's our nugget.
Yeah.
Okay, you got fired. Why'd you get fired?
Well, again, it goes back to just not having really the training and the help. So I was kind of just running on appointments, doing things. I didn't know half of the things I was saying and what I was doing. So when you do that, you know how easy it is to catch yourself up in a bad spot, you know? So I got let go, and I was actually getting momentum, really starting to roll. I was kind of counted out at that point by a lot of people. So that probably put a pretty strong chip on my shoulder at one point, and like a fire really to, you know, to go and succeed. That definitely pushed me like very hard in the initial years that I got into the business. After that, it was never like fueled by that after the last like several years, but that was initially like oh my God, I'm down, I'm counted out, I'm by myself. It's like now where I really need to full focus into this and become valuable and learn the knowledge and build things and build this business and prove everybody, you know, wrong, essentially.
So the second tough conversation, your parents know you got fired as a real estate agent?
Yeah.
How did that go?
That was bad too. Yeah, it was pretty tough.
These conversations like we had a guy in here last 2 weeks ago. He dropped out of school 3 times, and his first 2 years of selling real estate, he sold 1 house in 2 years.
Yeah.
And his group's doing 350 transactions.
Yeah. So you take that, right? My first 8 months, I sold 2 rentals in a mobile house, right? I made $12,000. it's so easy when you're not getting that instant gratification to just be like, this doesn't make money, this doesn't make sense, let me just drop out of it.
Correct.
And it's getting worse and worse in kind of the job market, because so many people are entering into real estate with like W-2 mindsets of like, I show up and I get paid, but they're not understanding that they're getting into a business, that they're becoming a business owner.
Correct.
And if you take any business, let's say you wanted to own a gym, or you wanted to own a Chipotle, right? It involves putting several hundreds of thousands of dollars down into investment, right, in yourself. It involves taking the SOPs, the standard operating procedures of Chipotle, their ingredients, their products, understanding their management, who goes where, what gets paid what, and following that for literally 3-4 years of that rubric before you actually break even on your money.
Until you see $1 back.
And then you start to grow it from there, and it continues to grow year by year. So like that same mentality and that same exact thing is true in real estate. So if you are coming into real estate and you're going into an office where there isn't that resource, right, of the hundreds of thousands of dollars of investment when it comes to leads, opportunities, systems, there isn't SOPs to show you this is exactly like a roadmap of what you need to do.
Correct.
You don't have coaching and training, you don't have any of these things. You're literally jumping in, becoming a business owner with the wrong mentality, with none of the resources and nothing, and your chances of actually making it are
so
basically
slim.
zero.
And that's why the fallout is so huge in real estate.
Correct.
I mean, I would think 10 to 15% actually make it.
Yeah, so there's actually, it's over 86% is the failure rate in real estate. And the thing is, though, it's not that real estate is rocket science. It's just that if you're in the wrong environment that doesn't have leads, resources, coaching, training, a roadmap, an environment where everybody is sharing information and shortening your learning curve, it's nearly impossible to succeed. But if you do put yourself in that environment and you just follow the SOPs, follow the code, and stick to it for the long haul, you'll keep building it, and you'll be super successful. So you got to align yourself with that environment.
And we talk about that all the time. I talk about the 3 L's. Leadership, which falls under coaching and training, leverage, and leads. Okay?
Yeah.
We got to help you get deals closed. We got to provide you with leads. We got to train you. We got to make sure. You know, Matt and I, we met a couple weeks ago. We were laughing that, our teams are structured similar. His is a little more higher level. I should say a lot more higher level. But we know that our teams are going to continue to get bigger because of what we have to offer.
Correct. One thing I've been super focused on over the last couple years has really come down to foundation building, right? Building those things, because I sat down and I asked myself, what are the necessary components to become very successful in real estate, right? And I was just mentioning a couple of those, but I think when I break it down, the most important things to be successful in real estate are: 1, a steady flow of leads and opportunity coming in every month. 2, a good CRM, but knowledge on how to utilize that CRM to move leads up a sales funnel to the next levels, because a lot of people have CRMs, but they use it like spreadsheets. The other thing is coaching and training, but not just blanket coaching and training. Coaching and training from people that actually do sell 30, 40, 50, 60 plus homes a year, telling you exactly what to do. Aside from that, you need a roadmap, right? A step-by-step on how to build your business and continue building. Aside from that, an environment where everybody is an open book sharing information.
So important. Culture's people, it's underrated.
Yeah,
Like the culture within the office
big time.
is huge because that's where everybody helps each other and supports your top level people or another extension of you.
Right. So those things critical, and then I would say the last two things, obviously tech and staff and kind of leverage behind the agents to just be able to do more with their time. Last thing is going to be definitely the accountability.
Yes.
And that's a big thing. Accountability is so helpful to so many agents. So many agents need that accountability behind them. So I'm very, very focused on understanding every agent in my groups, their numbers, their activity level, how they move things in the database, how they're doing on appointments, how they're making calls, how they're submitting their offers, how they're doing all of these things, and I compare it with all of the different layers of the group, and I can show them, and I also show them how to self-audit themselves on how they're doing. And these things give a frame of reference for the agents of what do I need to focus on to improve and tweak to then get way better success, right? Or what kind of activity and what do I have to do to be in line with the top tier in the group?
So there's a lot of agents who watch this podcast and they're probably like, oh my God, I don't do any of
that
this.
stuff.
My brokerage or my team, like that doesn't even fall into the equation. Like we're speaking a different language to people. And I was laughing because I'm looking at the wall with our core values and right there is accountable.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's what we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not getting that accountability and all these different things, like most agents, they fail because they don't have to come in at all. They just want to sign you up and go, hey, we got another agent today. That's what they do. Like, great.
Correct.
He knows a lot of people or she knows a lot of people. We think
Correct.
you're going to be good. But
correct. So I know, you know, with our organizations, we do it a little bit differently. I can't just take in every agent that comes and knocks on the door because we're putting so much resource and so much things behind them, not only just our time and effort, but the level of resources and stuff is tens of thousands of dollars behind them to get rolling, to get up to speed and going. So that agent's success is critical in the model of how I work it and how, you know, you work with your organization too, where it's not just, hey, all agents come here, sign up,
Yes.
and if you succeed, great. If you don't, doesn't matter because you're paying some kind of monthly.
correct.
And
It's
if you
not.
sell something, it's all right.
Yes, not because
That's a different
anybody
model.
who does that, they're just looking for bodies. It's not
Yeah.
it's not the model that I have. It's not the model that Matt has.
Yeah.
Nor do we ever want that.
Correct.
And you know, and he always talks about. You'll hear it when you have a conversation with him. ROI, ROI, ROI. It's amazing how detailed his breakdown of ROI is. The first time I met with you and you were going, I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm getting grilled. I don't even know the answers. So he's asking me these questions.
Yeah.
And it forced me to step up my game with our team to make sure we can see the profitability. So let's take a step back a little bit. So you leave the team, you get fired, you come down, you go work. That's when you went to work with Gene?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Correct.
So you put your head down, okay, and you say, I'm going to make this thing work. So how many years, did it take you to get up to that 75, 80, 100 deals a year?
Got you. Yeah, so that's a big, the important point, right, is that like you don't get from like there to that overnight, and a lot of people
Correct.
look at it like that, and they don't think it's possible, but it's taking those growth steps every year, right, and improving and tweaking. That first 8 months, like I said, that I had the mobile home 2 rentals, the year after that, it was January to December, that year I ended up doing 24 transactions. What was the biggest change between getting up and getting to 2024 was that I realized that being nice and available to show up for clients was not going to get me business. What was going to get me business was becoming extremely valuable. So in order to become extremely valuable, I had to learn everything about my product inside and out, to understand it, to be able to help people with the home product itself, but also the process, contracts, loopholes, where you're protected, what's coming up, what we want to look out for, just becoming extremely valuable. And I combined that learning with being super disciplined, where every single day, 5 to 8 p.m., I locked myself in a door, made follow-up calls, and I did that every day, like religiously. So that combination of that two helped me jump to 24. I think at 24, I made like 140K or so that year.
Okay.
Next year, I jumped to 40 units. That was like a 300,000 year. Then I jumped to, I think, between 60 and 70. Year after that, I jumped to a little over 100. And then the last
4 years he's over 100. Your 5th year, where were you?
and then my last year before I like transitioned more fully focused toward just the team building, I did 140 units. The average price point in my areas back then was like 350, so it was about 60 mil in sales volume. I mean, obviously that gross was over, you know, seven figures. But what happened was, yeah, from there I transitioned completely back to put all my time towards the team, because that's another huge point I'll just make real quick. A lot of teams don't really succeed well because their team leader is fully in production, and there's almost zero percent or 10% of that agent's team leader's time is dedicated towards their team and building their success and building foundations. So most of these teams don't work because that team leader is fully in production with all of their time. There's no training, coaching that goes on for their agents. There's no plan for them because that main team leader is cherry picking a lot of the leads that come in and only giving them some extra things here and there, or things that they either don't want to take over or out of their bandwidth. So the agents are getting like sprinkles of stuff here or there, no coaching, no training. They're getting to the point of doing 3-4 deals. They're not going higher. They have splits. And a lot of them either just drop out of the business or they try to find another group and team.
So the one thing that we talked about last night, when he talked about his progression of 24, 40, 65, 140, the one thing he left out, he dumped every dollar that he made back into his business.
Constantly, correct.
He didn't go out and buy a boat and 2 Corvettes, okay? He dumped all his money back into the business. So
yeah, I did have nice cars.
I'm sure.
But all the money did go back.
Always has a nice car and a nice watch.
Yeah.
But talk about that. Like, how important is that if you want to take things to the next level?
Yeah.
Because you said it yourself with the Chipotle analogy. Like, you had to dump all that money into building your business.
I think I saw very early, 5 years plus ago, I saw where real estate was trending and where it was heading, right? So that kind of focused how I ended up playing out the next several years, because what I realized, and this was like 5 years ago, I would look online and I would see, I'd go on Zillow, let's say, or like Trulia, and I would see in like every single town, there was a different agent that was like the top agent in that town that was there and maybe had 15, 20 deals a year that they were doing, and they were positioned right on the pages. What I noticed was that shortly after that, I realized that in groups and in a team, pooling that revenue together would end up bringing back a lot more revenue to be able to outspend the individual players. And a team can literally pool their sales together and all of a sudden jump from one town to another, pay more than the person that's there, and then they put the flag down and it's like, this is my town now. So I noticed that was kind of like how things were moving and happening a long time ago. So I realized that I need to be putting all my money back into grabbing market share, grabbing exposure online, grabbing all of these components of where your buyers and sellers are starting to move, because more and more of them were moving towards internet traffic. So I just did that early, putting it all back, trying to just grab and dominate everything that I could, while training agents to be very, very good and have those resources so we can continue growing as one unit. And from there, it just kind of became about building the foundations around it to just make that value proposition better and better and make the agents' income and net income way better than if they were by themselves and just throwing money at stuff and trying to figure it out on their own.
But because they can't. I mean,
it's not possible.
No, it's
the
really
ROI
difficult.
doesn't make sense. The reason that agents make a lot more money, the average agent on my team is selling 50, 20 houses plus a year. I have a lot of agents on my team that do 25, 30 plus homes a year.
So real quick,
Yeah.
sorry, I've said this before. 40% of all the agents in the country last year didn't sell a house. Your average agent sells
0 to 3.
Yeah. So when he's telling you most of his people are 15 to 20, like that's like unheard of. And then he has some people who are selling.
Yeah, I have over 30 agents on my team that sell over 25, 30 homes a year.
I mean, that's amazing. Okay, so that's a testament to all the training, what to do, how systems work, and everything.
And that's another thing too. So that constantly help the team grow and our environment grow, because what happened was we just kept creating success story after success story. So when you come into a spot and I say, hey, look at this person, this person, this person, this person, this person, and I have over 30 people that make 6 figures a year plus and have done it over and over and over, no matter what experience they have, how long they've had their license. Most of these guys are actually a year or 2 years into the business. My top guys that sell 40, 50, 60 plus homes a year and make 200-300 grand a year plus, they've only been in the business 3 years.
That's impressive. I mean, and what you've done, it's duplicatable.
Exactly.
That's
focus. It's come in. You don't have to rewrite the playbook. You just have to stick to it.
You got to put the right players in who want to do it, who have to drive, because we talked about this the other night, that some people, in the first 60, 90 days, if they're going to put the time in and buy in and do the right things, and then once they hit that point, then you're going to say, okay, I'm going to put some resources behind them so they can get to the next level.
Correct. Yeah, I used to do it differently, where people just kind of came in and we threw a bunch of resources at them, and that was not the way for it to work and grow as a healthy organization, because you have all of these top guys that are doing tons of deals and bringing up, bringing income and bringing return back to the organization to continue to grow, but then that's masked by your bottom 5, 10, 15 people that are actually not working the stuff correctly, doing what they got to do, and then that's pulling all the money down, so now the group's not advancing.
And then when you have those people in that organization who are only doing 3, 4 deals a year, every transaction is like the first real estate transaction ever done. And I always say it clogs up the assembly line, because their deals are just, I tell my agents, if everybody in the office knows about your one deal, that's a problem. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, and so I never want the agents to get too hung. It's not about getting hung up on a deal. A lot of agents make that mistake. They get kind of beaten up by what happens with one client or one deal, and that affects their like next month or 2 months plus, which is terrible. You just really want to focus as an agent on your weekly routine. And your activity level of what you're doing. And I can itemize that out for any agent based on what goal and stuff that they want to hit. So as long as they're focusing on that weekly routine, focusing on the activity level of what they got to do, and sticking to it through all of the punches, the momentum keeps building and they do better.
I mean, one of the key things we always talk about when you're in real estate, and to your point, you have to have a short-term memory. When something happens to you, you got to, it's going on to the next.
Correct.
You can't,
but you have to,
you're done.
You have to let it out, but like let it out for that day. So I tell like my agents on the team, like, all right, that guy totally screwed you. Go home later tonight, like eat a carton of ice cream, cry for the rest of the night, and just let it out.
And come back
and wake up tomorrow. And you wake up tomorrow after you cry it out, and you're like, yeah, you're over it, and it's move forward. And if you can do that, you will succeed a lot more in real estate, because I do see agents that take something personally to the chin when they get screwed over and it affects their months and they get into these ruts, you know.
And all of a sudden, if that happens to you in May and it hurts you in May and June, that's the busiest time of year. That really affects your bottom number.
And the other thing too to mention, like when I was doing 100+ deals a year and I was doing, you know, getting 10 offers accepted a month, it wasn't that I was throwing out 10 offers, 10 got accepted, and I have you know, and I would move on to the next month. I was going out with tons of people, probably writing up 35+ offers, maybe getting 18 of them accepted or 17 accepted, and then 7 of those people would either back out of review or screw me over, but then I would net 10. Right, so like that's how you have to look at it. You are going to get screwed over left and right.
Part of the business.
Part of the business. Yeah.
So the other thing that we did not hit on is, you know, you did 140 your last year in production.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, listen to this. How many buyer-seller ratio were you? Where were you at?
9. Man, that's how, so my team's different than how I was at the end of it. I would probably say it was maybe 70% buyers, 30% sellers.
Okay, so for someone who does 140, I mean, that's what I was doing when I was running buyers, but I was like 35 buyers and 110 listings.
Yeah.
Which is, you can kind of sit back, you go on your listing appointments, you do stuff, you get a prep, offers are coming in. When you're writing, you know, that's 70%, that's like 105 buyers you're putting together.
Yeah, the reason I was able to do that was because, like, most agents are doing it wrong, where they just go and take out buyers for like months and months and months and like try to, you know, hope that they end up buying something and closing on something. I took the time to meet every one of these buyers for coffee first, do a buyer consult, and find out their motivation, their time frame, where they're staying, educating them on the entire process, start to finish, going over their price range, sending them everything that's sold in the last 4 months, so it's like, this is what to expect, seeing how they respond to that, and then making the changes there and identifying the style and everything they need, so that when we actually go out on an appointment, we're focused on the right areas, the things you can't change, the styles, the price range, what to expect. We're all on the same page, so most of my people within a month were getting wrapped up, or 3 to 4 appointments.
Well, it's funny because I was going to pull it out before you said when you changed what you were doing, you learned the whole business, and you brought value to the conversation.
Correct. Value is everything.
I mean, and we talk about that all the time, because there's 10 zillion real estate agents in every market you go into.
Correct.
If you don't show value in that first meeting, you're done.
Yeah.
Okay, so you take the time, you listen, because you got to be a great listener as a salesperson, and you show them what you can offer them, which most people don't do at all.
Correct. Most agents just meet them at the house. They walk through the home. They're like, did you guys like it, or do you not like it, right? And even if they say, I don't like it, it's not even dug deeper to understand, why didn't you like it, right? Please tell me why you didn't like it so I can identify.
Correct.
Is that a problem of this house, or is it a problem of the age of construction, style, and our budget? So let's identify that and narrow that down for next time, so that we're looking at the right thing.
And it's funny because, you know, you see people show houses, and, you know, as a heavy listing agent, I'll go and meet some, and the agent doesn't say a word. Like, they're just like there to, isn't the dining room nice?
Yeah.
You have to ask these questions. I'm telling you, you guys, when you watch this podcast, you should go back and watch it 5 times. Okay? The stuff that he is talking about. So, I mean, there's a reason why he's 32 and he did this. You were out of production at 29.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said something really interesting last night. When your business was 18%.
When I was 18% of my team's business, I pulled myself out.
Okay.
Because my time behind on the foundations, the accountability, the systems, the things that are actually required to build a business, if I'm putting 100% of my time behind that, will that bring way more than 18% to this team? Of course.
Like a light bulb went off in my head.
Yeah.
I'm like I said when we were done, I'm like, I got to get out there more and be behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Building a team.
Yeah.
And because I was always half the business of the entire office.
Correct.
So now it's shrinking as we hit 650, 700. and I'm only going to do like 80 deals, and it's time for me to almost pull away,
back,
have my listing agent set up, get everything, make the introductions, kind of go help with when there's a problem.
And I think two other points that I would add to that part. So a lot of team leaders make a very big mistake when it comes to them being such a big portion of the team, because when they are like fully focused on their own business and running all of these deals, and that's really their goals to like build their own kind of production in their business, they shouldn't be team leaders, one. Two, what happens is that team, most good salespeople, they're actually not really good with like their numbers and systems. So they just see every month that they're positive flowing in, but they don't realize that that positive, their team is actually a net negative.
Correct.
And they don't have the things to grow. They're not growing the business. They're just a net positive because of their production. And if they actually just stop for 1 second and let the team be its team, it would be a dramatically negative performing group where then they would just implode.
I couldn't agree more, because at the end of the day, you almost be like, all right, why don't I just be a one-man band?
So that's the, like, if your focus is that like you just want to like build your business, sell more homes, make more money, like, and you just want to kind of make that focus on you and build your sales, don't start a team. Just hire staff around yourself to increase your production, because that's going to make you cash flow 1,000 times better, and probably end up with a way better result. When you're transitioning to running a team, it's not about you anymore. It's about the agents in your team and getting them super successful, right? And in order to do that, you need to build all of these foundation things, be 100% behind them, because that is beyond several full-time jobs in itself. And that's the only way to actually build a business, an organization, and a killer group and team.
Well, one of the problems that I see with a lot of people who are salespeople and like to sell and try and be a team leader, it's an ego-driven thing.
Correct. Ego is a big issue.
Ego's like all about it. My name, it's gonna be up front. Like I tell you, one of my favorite things about you is, especially last night at dinner, they're like, "Do you know this person?" And you're like,
"Nope."
No, I don't know who that. Do you know?
Nope.
No.
I know. I had to backtrack to everybody there, and I was like, guys, I'm kind of like this like recluse that's behind in the office, like behind the laptop, just like focusing with blinders on how can I tweak this team and foundations and operations and things going on. How can I make it better? How can I check everyone's accountability? What do these people need to improve on? What can I improve with my systems, my stuff? Everything is so intrinsic to what I'm doing that I'm not looking outside at all. I'm just looking inside. So I don't know who a lot of agents and people are, and I also don't care at all if anyone knows who I am. So that's a big difference, because a lot of agents are very driven by ego, and that makes them make very, very clouded decisions that actually ruins their business. But like, I'm all for it, because let them do that so that I can kind of navigate through that and do things the right way.
Yeah, I mean, it's really like, I was laughing because a lot of agents always, realtors are different animals, okay? So when you get a breath of fresh air like this and really sit down and have a higher level conversation, it allows me to think twice as big. I mean, I see, I got a text from Matt like early February. It's like, dude, you're killing it. You're like in the top group in the country. And I don't even check that stuff either.
Perfect.
I was like, oh, I said, where'd you find that?
You did say that.
Yeah. So, but like, that's the kind of people that I want to surround myself. Like, I could see, like 2022, everybody said what an amazing year it was. 2023 dipped off. We saw a 13% bump in growth. And from 2022 to 2024, we're going to double our numbers and profitability because of systems from guys
internally.
Like this. Yeah.
And looking internally too.
And looking at different things. Like I don't know how your organizations run, but We always, from October to December is when we just tweak everything. We look at everything, what we're gonna get rid of.
Well, October to December is usually when things start to fall off. So
Correct.
you really have to be more conscientious on what you're putting money out there for,
Exactly
and
right.
and what is helping the business grow, and what hasn't done anything that should be removed to get through that period. And then when things start to ramp up again, then turn that back onto the offense.
Yeah, you're
So.
100% right. All right, so in your career, biggest mistake?
Jeez, biggest mistake. Like as a team leader?
As a team leader, yeah, as a team leader.
My biggest mistake as a team leader was thinking that just throwing a ton of leads at people was going to make them successful. So that's a huge thing for everybody that's listening. Leads in itself is not going to solve your problem. Training with no resource to actually go and execute is also not going to solve your problem. There needs to be that multiple of leads, opportunity, CRM, understanding on how to move things up the pipeline, coaching, training, tech, leverage, roadmap, community. Those things all together are what makes a super successful environment. So I think the biggest mistake that I made was just giving resource and not knowing my numbers and being afraid to check the accountability.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't want to pull the cape up because I knew it was bad. I didn't want to look at like there might be like 4 or 5 guys on my team, 6 guys on my team that were just like taking all of these resources, not doing anything with it. And I was just like blinders because I'm like, I don't want to look at it because I know how angry I'm going to get. And that was very wrong to do it that way. So when you pull up pull the sheet up and look behind, that is critical to the right growth and knowing your numbers. So many agents like do not know their numbers on anything, and I'm sure tons of people watching this right now are like, I've never checked my numbers. I don't know what's going on.
I gotta pull up that sheet and look behind.
I gotta look behind what's going on, the curtain. And that was the biggest mistake early on that I switched from doing that. That was definitely a huge builder from there.
So it's funny too, you say that, know your numbers, because most people say, hey, like, what do you know? Like, oh, I sold $37 million last year, I had 118 transactions. That's the way they think their numbers are. You know, and then some people will say, hey, I always tell my agents, you got to know your statistics and where you're at. You got to know how many houses for sale, how many pendings, what's the absorption rate, how prices are going, our inventory light.
I'm also very obsessed with growth and continuing to build, right? So like, a lot of agents have that kind of that ego where they'll be like, oh, I did 10 mil last year or 15 mil last year, or I sold 20 mil last year. Okay, great. What did you do the year before that, the year before, the year before, the year before that? And they'll be like, they would have been 15 years in a row in the same position. Correct. If you're in the same position for 15 years, you're not growing. And I don't see that. I don't see that as a win in any shape or form. You should be focusing on growth, learning, building every single year. And that's another huge thing that a lot of agents have
100%
trouble with, because they're focusing 100% of their time in their business as opposed to on their business, and they can't even take an hour on like a Monday once a week to take a step back, look at your business as a business, where are the flaws, what needs to be improved, and let's focus on it for an hour. They can't do it. I know so many agents doing 15 mil, 20 mil, whatever volume they're doing, and all they talk about is, oh, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, but you're so busy running in the same
hamster
circle.
Wheel.
So it's like, let's take back for a second, let's look at it as a business. Where do I need the help and the improvement, and let's focus on those things and tweak them so I can continue growing.
And you know, it's a great point, because when agents come into our organization, we say, listen, your first year, you should be 6 to 12 deals. We set that expectation. Year 2, we like to see a 12 to 18. Okay? When you know our systems are working and we have someone who's buying in, that's going to put you in that 24 to 30 deals. I mean, is that
Cool.
something where your head's at?
So I talk to tons of agents every single month, and what I've and I'm talking about probably 100 a month that I speak to, and from the 100 agents that reach out to me a month, I would say all of the agents that are like in some kind of solo on their own type of position. About 8 months about 8 months into the business, all of them are at the point at 8 months into the business where they either have just drafted up their first offer or they haven't drafted up an offer at all. And then all the people I speak to that are like solo on their own little island that are in the business a year and 2 months, a year and 3 months, they've like just gotten their first offer accepted or they haven't yet. So that's the norm, actually, what's going on right now. So in my organization, again, just throwing out leads and throwing stuff at you is not going to make you a great agent. But we put the agents through really like a boot camp of just like learning our systems, learning our training, learning everything that they need to know. I would say about 80% plus of the agents that come on board, even brand new, and a lot of them brand new into the business, they're locking up their first deal within their first 60 to 90 days.
Right. So it's very
And then what's happening after that is I'm getting them to focus on their weekly routine and activity level to build the consistency. The first 4 to 6 months is always that like learning curve of like whenever they just kind of click and get it and they're decently good at every part. Once they get through that 4 to 6 month learning curve, whatever they wrap up that year with, I always tell them it's their learning year. Some of my agents do 6, some do 10, some do 15, some do 20 plus. It's just relies on them and how they build that. The following year, which is really their first full year starting from January to December, all of the agents from that year to December will do 15 plus. And then the year after that, whatever they did the year prior, as long as they're sticking to that disciplined schedule and their database is getting bigger and they're constantly learning through all of our systems, they will 1.5 to double the income of what they did the year prior. So that's a full breakdown on like an 80% level.
Most people listen like their head spinning, like, oh my God, are you kidding me? But that's, treat it like a job. You said something that was I pulled out of there. Consistency is so important. Like you got to constantly do, like every day you have to be in there. I'm in at 8:15 every morning. You got to treat it like a job. And one of the hurdles as a team leader is sometimes you don't see people. Like, where are you? Okay, what are you doing? Like, and holding them accountable is so important. When you get into these offices where there's 350, 450, and you're a single agent, or you got a team lead who's just sells a couple houses and wants them, you really need to ask the right questions when you join a team. You really do. I mean, you're setting yourself up for failure. So I mean,
yeah, I think a lot of agents kind of just they just don't know what's out there, and they don't want to look or look at what's out there for their business to grow. And it's crazy. A lot of agents are very stubborn. There could be a completely way better situation for them to make a ton more money in this business, but they're just like, they would get reached out and they don't even want to hear it on the phone. They'll be like, oh no, I'm happy, I'm good with where I'm at. But it's like, at the end of the day, you're trying to build your business and build your career, and if you're struggling and you don't have systems, you don't have leads, you don't have accountability, you're not surrounded by a ton of agents that are doing 30, 40, 50 plus homes a year, you don't have an environment where everybody's an open book sharing stuff, your odds are so stacked against you from growing, and you're hitting such a strong ceiling at such a low level, and you'll never grow from that. And that's a huge thing that a lot of agents struggle with. Like, drop the ego, like look for what's out there. What's your best opportunity? You got to look at that, because so many agents that are really, really struggling and not doing well, they come off to everybody as if everything's the best thing on earth and they're doing great. But like, take the ego out of it. Build your business. Look for opportunities in what's out there and what's going to put you in the best spot to grow. And if you're just working a ton of hours a day, but you don't have any of the things that I'm talking about, again, you're just kind of running in this circle that's not going anywhere. So no matter how hard you work, you're not building. But if you have all these components and you're in an environment that has all these components, that work's going to translate to growth and more income.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable when you sit around, you have these conversations with higher thinking people who we just talk about growth and thinking big, and it's really changed my whole mentality. How I, like the fact I would never in a million years thought that, like, all right, I'm going to be stepping out of production and say, hey, you guys, I'm going to help run the show and go.
But what's funny to like mention onto that, right? Like a lot of people think like stepping out of production means like, whoa, I'm out of it. I can relax. I'm hanging out on a beach somewhere. And it's like, yeah, I stepped out of production 3 years ago. But at this point right now, right, I have a head of agent growth. I have a head of several different departments. I got all of this like staff, systems, the departments rolling, as well as all of these very productive agents. But I'm actually working more now than I was when I was selling 140 houses. It's just geared on things that's going to grow our organization and group way more than me being the one.
It goes to the same thing you were talking about. Before, you were showing value to your buyers and sellers. Now what you're doing is you're showing value to
the agents.
It's the same thing. You're doing constantly the same thing. And that's what, and we were talking last week, like, we're so excited for the future because we see how this business is changing. And the teams who have the right infrastructure, the right systems, the accountability, the lead gen are just going to get bigger and bigger.
Think of it, the easiest way to think about it, because this same thing is true actually for almost any industry. Our like groups, right, are big organizations. We're almost like, we're taking all of the really great things about corporate and like becoming a corporation within real estate that's really like a Wild West kind of industry, right? So we're coming in as a corporation, like a Google, like a Yahoo, like something, and we're able to just take way more agents that are producing as one unit, bringing in more revenue to be able to put that back into better systems, more market dominance, more everything, where we're able to then take all of that web traffic of moving like a corporation does while having the structure of the corporation, while having the staff and the things of a corporation, while having the roadmap and the SOPs of a corporation. That's what we're doing in real estate. So, and these are the things that you need to succeed, but also, it's all of the positives of being an independent contractor business owner, because everybody that's in the group, their income is not capped.
Correct.
They're not forced to be in an office, and you don't put your timesheet in and you're fired. So it has all of the great things of being a business owner, but it's taking all of those great things about a corporate infrastructure into this Wild West and being able to dominate it as a whole. So for all these other people that are going into these other companies that essentially are all on their own and don't have this resource, don't have the collective together moving in the same direction, it is a matter of time before they all start closing up shop.
I agree.
And guess what? All of these agents that really want to make this a career and build their business, they're going to come to where that value, foundation, systems, and all these things are, and that's going to make groups like yours and mine much bigger and continue to grow the opportunity there.
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't have said it any better. I mean, I got to tell you, this is probably our 30th podcast. I was so excited, as far as all the real estate people have, like, this is the most value you'll see here. Okay, there's not too many people in the country who have the thought process like him, understands it, looks at the whole thing, and has done this at the age of 32 years old. Like, I appreciate all your time. You come in and just do everything. Like, it's one of the great things about this new organization we're with. meeting high-level thinkers and just watching everybody grow.
Yeah, it's like you're not thinking big enough. Like that's the biggest bottleneck for most people too. You're not thinking big enough. Every year we've looked back. Last year looked like a stone age. So that's how you need to be thinking, and that's how you have to be surrounding yourself with people that think like that and operate like that, and that's what's going to really make an impact for your growth.
Hey, 3 years ago we were still doing handwritten commission checks in here, so we've really got
yeah.
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed it. What a great afternoon, Matt. Thanks for your time
man.
coming in.
Of course.
Good stuff. Go get a win.